What's going on YouTube? It is Repulse back in another video. In today's video, as you can see, Chelsea news is back. There is actually a ton that kicked off today. A lot of positive news actually for Chelsea. So yeah, I think we just jump straight into it. But yeah, there's a ton of positive news. I think the entire fan base is in a good mood right now. A lot of good stuff to go over, even though it's pretty early into my day. It's pretty much midday in the UK, so most of the business will be done. By this time, maybe a little later, there might be more news. So maybe the second video comes out today or not. Not for sure, but yeah, definitely tons of stuff that kicked off today, but tons of positive stuff. So I just say we jump right into it, beginning with Garnacho, which is the least positive. That's why it's here first. Still being linked. Grandma Bailey says that Alejandro Garnacho wants to stay in England and there are only so many options. Chelsea like him, but Aston Villa emerged as an option. I am told the player has done his homework on the possibility of working with Unai Emery and has heard good things. So, that second paragraph, we hope that comes to fruition. We hope Alejandro Garnacho does go to Aston Villa. Speaking on Alejandro Garnacho to Chelsea, I don't think he'd be awful. I don't like the player. I don't like the baggage he comes with in terms of his personality. I think he'd cause a ruckus, but tactically, just being a touchline winger, he can definitely do that. I don't know if he'd thrive here. I think there's a possibility he thrives here, like there's a possibility Madueke thrives at Arsenal. I think they're very similar players in the way that they have the potential to explode, but we also don't know if they have the potential that they're already at their ceiling. Yeah, Alejandro Garnacho, a player I don't particularly like, but if he comes to Chelsea, I'm gonna back him regardless. I think he could definitely do something here. I'm not, writing that off as a possibility. We saw Anthony light it up at Real Betis. We saw Jadon Sancho play well here, a lot better than he did at Man United. So maybe it's just the institution of Man United that's holding these players back, rather than the players actually being bad themselves, as we saw with those two players I just mentioned. So maybe Alejandro Garnacho does get a move and kicks on. Maybe that moves Aston Villa, maybe that moves Chelsea, but for the time being, I am hoping it's Aston Villa. But I'll definitely watch some more Man United games, even though they put me to sleep, to see if there's anything I can take away from Alejandro Garnacho and see if I like the player or not. I do definitely think he does have a boatloads of potential. So he could definitely come in and do a job here if he somewhat reaches that potential, and if Maresca can touch his heart and get him to grow up and mature as a player, I definitely take him in. But I think the price tag is too much, and just the overall baggage he comes with is way too much for us to bring in. So yeah, that's that on Alejandro Garnacho. On Nicholas Jackson potentially leaving, this actually just broke. Chelsea values Nicholas Jackson at between 80 million and 100 million pounds, with Man United among the clubs keeping an eye on him. Chelsea is under no pressure to sell. A number of Premier League clubs and clubs in Europe and Saudi Arabia are interested in signing him this summer. We know Man United are pretty much the heaviest link that Nicholas Jackson has had. Apparently they've started talks with his entourage, but I think we're staying around that 80 million mark. We saw Hugo Ekitike go for 79 million, so that's pretty much the ballpark that we're playing with. If Ekitike goes for 80 million pounds, then we're going to sell Nicholas Jackson for 80 million pounds. But we're in no pressure to sell. Again, if we don't find suitors for Nicholas Jackson, we're going to keep him. He's going to play for us next year. He's going to be a substantial piece to what we want to do next year. But if we do find a suitor for him, he's more than likely going to leave, and try a challenge elsewhere, and Chelsea will get a hefty fee for him. But yeah, number of Premier League clubs, I think Arsenal could be one if Gyökeres doesn't go through. I don't know who else. I would have said Liverpool, but now that they have Ekitike, I don't think so anymore. So Arsenal, Man United, maybe Tottenham, maybe. Not for sure. Potentially Newcastle, since they lost out on Ekitike. If they want a player similar to Ekitike, Nicholas Jackson can do that job for them for a similar price. Clubs in Europe, we know AC Milan are interested. We know Napoli are interested. And then Saudi Arabia, just one of those 4 principality teams that are owned by them. So yeah, Nicholas Jackson could definitely be out the door this summer. I expect him to leave, especially if we do bring in another striker. A true number 9, we have Delap, we have João Pedro, but if Jackson does leave, you're going to want to bring a true number 9 in, because we want 2 true number 9s, and as of right now, we only have Liam Delap if Nicholas Jackson was to leave. So yeah, I think, that Jackson money would be reinvested into another striker, but for the time being, it seems like he's content here. But if a suitable offer does come in, we can't expect Nicholas Jackson to leave. But moving on to loan outgoings, Strasbourg agreed a deal to sign Mamadou Sarr on loan from Chelsea. The defender is back to the club. After signing an 8-year deal at Chelsea, Sarr returns to Strasbourg on loan as key part of Roseneuer's plans for upcoming season with top 5 ambitions in Liga. Here we go. Um, this is pretty funny. Obviously, Mamadou Sarr was at Strasbourg last season, our sister club. We signed him this summer. He played the Club World Cup with us, won a trophy, became champion of the world, and now we're sending him back to Strasbourg. Um, my opinions on it, I agree. If Maresca seemed that he needed game time to just mature and grow into a better player, then send him out on loan, let him do his thing, get some game time under his belt. Obviously, we have a lot of Chelsea players playing at Strasbourg next season. We have Sarr, we have Penders, we're gonna have Kendry Paez, we're gonna have Amogu, and then we have all their players that seem like decent talents, like Sebastian Anasi and Daniel Bakwa and Emmanuel Mega, who might actually be a Chelsea player at this point. I have no clue, but yeah, Mamadou Sarr is headed back there. I agree. I think he just needs to mature into a better player. Good player for them last season, and I think Rosenior wanted him back to help him get that top 5 Liga spot, get the Europa League, maybe Champions League potential. But yeah, Mamadou Sarr is back to the club, uses an international loan spot, which is kind of annoying because you could have just kept him at Strasbourg, but at the same time you do want to buy him for a cheaper fee than you would next year. So yeah, that's why he comes to the club, but he's immediately loaned back out to Strasbourg after winning a trophy at Chelsea. Other than that, Mamadou Sarr's return to Strasbourg revealed last night also means Aaron Anselmino won't join the French club. We expected Aaron Anselmino, Kendry Paez, and Mike Penders to be the 3 that joined Strasbourg, but Chelsea are assessing different loan options for the Argentinian defender. I definitely think he could get a championship loan or a low Premier League side loan or just be loaned out to Boca Juniors, but I don't know how many international loans we'll have after, Sarr, Penders, and Kendry Paez are all loaned out. However, I do think Anselmino could get a top-end championship loan, maybe like a Coventry. Frankie Lampard sees Anselmino as a talent, wants to bring him in. But yeah, we're assessing different options, and I think keeping him in England would be the right way to go, just so he can, continue to adapt to the culture, continue to learn the language here. So I think that would be the most beneficial for Aaron Anselmino to move to a club that speaks English. Maybe in Scotland, you could see Rangers going for him. I know they were interested earlier in the window, so maybe Anselmino does go off to Rangers as he was linked earlier, but that is another international loan, so I don't know how that'll go, but yeah, Anselmino will not be loaned out to Strasbourg. He will be loaned out somewhere domestically, most likely, or maybe just a neighboring country that does speak a similar language is what I'd do for him. Other than that, we do have all formal steps being completed for Mike Penders to leave Chelsea on loan and join Strasbourg, so pretty swift that Penders, Sarr, and now Paez are all going to go out on loan to Strasbourg. Obviously, our sister club, not really hard to get the formal steps completed. We're sharing documents to ourselves. So yeah, Mike Penders off to Strasbourg on loan. So that means it is official for both Penders as well as Mamadou Sarr, and next up will be Kendry Paez to go out on loan to join Strasbourg. So that is that on the loan updates. I know there's quite a lot that came out in the last day, but it seems like everything is going swiftly. All these players are going to go off to Strasbourg, develop a little bit. I think this is a good move for Penders as well as Sarr, as they both speak French. Obviously, Penders is Belgian, so in Belgium they speak Dutch, they speak French. So yeah, Mike Penders goes off on loan to Strasbourg, and Kendry Paez will be next up to watch them play in the Conference League, hopefully, which I definitely think will be a good competition for them. I think it's a competition they could actually win, so I'll be intrigued to watch them in that competition. Other than that, we have Chukwuemeka potentially leaving Chelsea. Understand Chelsea are still closing doors to loan exit for Carney Chukwuemeka. Borussia Dortmund have been in talks for weeks over loan, but no green light from Chelsea. Chelsea want a permanent exit or no way, as Borussia Dortmund also consider more options for new midfielder. We know Chukwuemeka is kind of part of the bomb squad in terms of like the João Felix's, Raheem Sterling's. I don't think he deserves it. I do think he's a tidy player, and I do think that's why teams want to sign him. But he doesn't really have a spot at Chelsea. That's why he's on the bomb squad, but we're not going to warrant a loan. We want to permanently sell. We want to balance the books. We want to get these net profits in so we can reinvest that money into other targets, which I will talk about later in this video because there's very good news. But yeah, Chelsea are closing doors to loan exit on Carney Chukwuemeka. I do think he's a good player, and I do think a team will end up paying for Chukwuemeka, maybe like a Bournemouth or something. if you want to stay domestically, but I do think, he had a successful loan over at Borussia Dortmund. They do want to keep him, so I kind of expect them to pay, but I do think they need to sell someone first. But at the same time, they did sell Gittins to us, so maybe Chukwuemeka does go the other way with the money that we paid them for Jamie Gittins. But more on this. Florian Plettenberg said, as reported in our show on Friday, there's still no agreement between Borussia Dortmund and Chelsea regarding Carney Chukwuemeka. Chelsea's clear intention is a sale, not a loan. It remains unclear whether this will be interesting or feasible for Borussia Dortmund. So basically no advancements other than Borussia Dortmund trying to push for a loan regarding to Chukwuemeka. But I do expect him to leave this window. I do expect Borussia Dortmund to end up signing the player for a fee of around like 35 million or so. Same that we're getting for a player that I'm actually about to speak about next. So, maybe that's a good transition, but we're going to stay on Chukwuemeka for the time being. 35 million most likely for Carney Chukwuemeka. Maybe a little less, maybe a little more. Not really any clue, but I think if we value him appropriately, it will be around that 35 to 40 million pound mark. No agreement yet, but it seems like we are going to be advancing in negotiations if Borussia Dortmund seem that it is feasible for a permanent sell. Chukwuemeka's Chelsea career, we know, is pretty much done and dusted. We don't expect him to feature anymore. Good riddance, Chukwuemeka. I wish you all the best. Obviously, we're going to talk about you a little bit more on this channel because you're still a Chelsea player. You haven't left officially yet. But once a team comes in, I expect Chukwuemeka to be keen to leave because obviously he's not going to get the game time here. So we can expect Chukwuemeka to leave this summer and sometime in the near future. And that might be potentially to Borussia Dortmund. And now the other 35 million pound player, Atletico Madrid. Talking about Veiga, has already made its second offer to Chelsea for Renato Veiga, 30 million pounds. The clubs are in talks, says La Keep via Atleti Universe. Good, pretty much like a Pice account for them. Speaks all things Atletico Madrid, talks about all their news. More on that. Understand Renato Veiga said yes to Atletico Madrid. No issues on personal terms. Atletico and Chelsea remain in direct contacts for Renato Veiga, as reported over the weekend. Chelsea insists on package reaching 40 million euros with add-ons included. So that equates to a total of 35 million pounds. I think that's good business for Veiga. We got him for 12 million pounds. We're getting 35 million pounds, 36 million pounds. So we're tripling our money in 1 year worth of having him. Again, a player I like, a player that I wanted to keep. I do definitely have tweets about Renato Veiga on my Twitter if you want to go check that out. x.com/Rescasera. If you do want to see that, I definitely have tweets saying that I had a good connection with Renato Veiga while I was here. I do like the player. I do think he's a very tidy player, someone that I do really like. I think he, plays with a lot of passion. But kind of burnt bridges at the club by going out to Juve, saying he's not gonna play unless he's playing in the position that he wants to. So not really spot at Chelsea. Obviously, Colwill occupies that left center back spot as of right now. Veiga does not have a spot here at the club. So we're cashing in. We're getting pretty much triple the money that we paid for him. So way to get a profit on the books for Chelsea. And it looks definitely great in terms of profit as well as being able to reinvest the money on this player that we are talking about right now. Xavi Simons' deal expected to develop soon, as the player decision since May is clear. He wants to leave. 2 years left on his deal at Leipzig, and price tag can be under 70 million euros now, which is about 60 million pounds, I'd say. It can be under 60 million pounds, which is a substantial amount of money that's taken off. We were expecting it to be potentially 80 million euros, not 80 million pounds. So, under 60 million pounds, I think is definitely a deal we should, look to invest in. We spent that on João Pedro. We spent that on Jamie Gittins. We just got that from Madueke. We have all the Club World Cup money. So I do expect us to explore the Xavi Simons deal. As Fabrizio says that Chelsea and Arsenal are interested as revealed as last week, while FC Bayern remain also keen. And this was followed up with Florian Plettenberg saying, Chelsea have a serious interest in Xavi Simons. Understand talks between the club and the players' camp already having started. No club-to-club talks yet. First, it needs to be checked whether an agreement can be reached between Chelsea and the player. Chelsea are currently the most concrete option. Arsenal are monitoring the situation. Bayern are not concretely in the race so far, but Max Earl is informed about everything. Xavi wants to leave Leipzig. So it seems like we are in for Xavi Simons, which is, I think makes the entire fan base very united. I think everyone really likes the player. I haven't really seen anyone speak too badly about Xavi Simons. And if I do, they haven't really watched any games, because if you do watch games of Xavi Simons, you're just going to fall in love with the player. Really, really good player, really versatile. Again, can play across the entire front four. I know people are saying he can't really play false nine, but he can if you need him to as a third option. The same way that Cole Palmer can kind of play that false nine position if you need him to, Xavi Simmons can. As long as you have someone behind him to like link up with him, it's pretty much a two striker formation when you have Xavi Simmons at the false nine. But again, he can play that shadow striker very well. But talks between the club and the players camp have started, which makes me really excited because we are the most concrete option. It seems like Xavi Simmons will be open to coming here. The secret scout said that he was that this was true, that he is open to coming here, and I do expect advancements in the coming days and weeks. So hopefully Xavi Simmons can become a Chelsea player. Hopefully, Arsenal do go in for Eberiche Eze so we can get Xavi Simmons, and then that Eze deal just magically breaks down, and we already have Simmons through the door, and now Arsenal are left with no one, and we don't even know if they're getting Gyökeres. Bayern, I don't know if they'll go in for him. I doubt. But Xavi wants to leave Leipzig. He wants to come to the Premier League. Chelsea are the most concrete option. We've already started talks with this player's camp, so positive signs with the deal, and I can't be happier to know that Xavi Simmons might become a Chelsea player because he is one of my favorite players in world football. Love him in every single FIFA game I play. Love him in every single game I watch him play. Just very tidy player and really has his head screwed on. Rarely makes mistakes or anything like that. Always makes very good decisions, and that's something that I really, really like in players is when they're able to make that last decision, that last ditch thought, playing those passes into the final third that maybe a Mudryk couldn't do or a Madueke couldn't do. So yeah, definitely excited to see us linked to him and starting negotiations with him. But that is everything. I know it was a lot of news for 10:40 in the morning where I am right now, but I do think there's going to be more news that kicks off later today, so there's definitely going to be a second video. I'd say I definitely think there's going to be a second video today. So yeah, if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to like and subscribe, and just await for the second news video of the day, if there is enough. Again, I'm not going to post something if there isn't enough because I don't want to elongate news for no reason, but I do definitely expect a second news video out today. So if you're looking forward to that, just like this one, hit the bell, and there will be a second one out later today. And again, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, it's Repulse, and I'm out. Peace.